I don't know what followed me, but I have pictures. I grew up in a nowhere town tucked into the middle of the country. The kind of place that prides itself on being quiet. Red brick storefronts, rusted train lines, flat land that goes on so long it feels intentional, like there's nothing for miles because you're not meant to run. I'd lived there my entire life. Same streets, same shortcuts, same habits. That's why it took me too long to understand that something had noticed me. It started my junior year, late autumn, when daylight gave up early and the air tasted like rot and iron. I walked home most afternoons instead of taking the bus. There was a shortcut that shaved 15 minutes off the walk past an abandoned processing plant squatting beside the tracks. Everyone called it the cold house. No one remembered what it processed. No one went inside. That's where I first heard the footsteps. They were behind me. I slowed. They slowed. At first I thought it was another kid messing with me. People like to scare each other back there. But the rhythm was wrong. The steps weren't confident. Sometimes they dragged, sometimes they clicked. Like whoever or whatever was walking hadn't decided how legs were supposed to work yet. I stopped and turned around. There was no one there. The silence that followed was heavy, pressurized, like the world was holding its breath. I hurried home with my shoulders tight and my pulse crawling up my throat, certain I'd feel something grab me if I slowed down. After that, it didn't stop. I'd see movement in reflections, store windows, car doors, something tall and colorless that vanished the instant I looked straight at it. Teachers would say my name in the hallway, clear as day, but when I answered, they swore they hadn't spoken. Once, I heard my dad call me from the basement while he was still on a job site 2 towns over. That's when sleep stopped coming easily. The night I really saw it was after a home game. I was alone, cutting past the cold house again, hoodie pulled tight, breath fogging in front of me. The moon was bright enough to show the building clearly, its windows punched out, its walls flaking, like something had tried to escape from inside and failed. Something stood beside it. It was roughly human-shaped. Roughly. Too tall, too narrow. Its arms hung low, stretching past where wrists should have ended. Its head leaned at an angle that made my own neck ache in sympathy. The skin looked stretched thin and pale, like wax pulled too tight over a bad mold. I froze. It shifted its weight, and I heard joints pop softly wet, corrective sounds. When it stepped forward, I understood what I was looking at. It was trying to stand like a person. Each movement was an adjustment, a rehearsal. Then its mouth opened. Hey, my voice. Not similar, not close. Perfect. Same pitch, same cadence. Same lazy drawl I hated hearing in recordings. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might black out. My phone slipped from my hands and hit the ground, the screen lighting us both. The thing leaned closer. Its face twisted, stretching into something that might have been a smile if it knew what a smile was for. Its eyes caught the moonlight too wide, too reflective, empty of anything like emotion. It wasn't threatening me. It was studying me. I ran. I don't remember the path home. Only the sound of my own footsteps and something else matching them perfectly, step for step, never gaining, never falling behind. I slammed my door, locked it, slid to the floor, and cried until my chest hurt. I didn't tell anyone. There was nothing to tell that wouldn't get me watched. But sometimes, when I walk alone now, I hear footsteps behind me that match mine exactly. Same pace, same hesitation, same rhythm. And when I pass the cold house, I still see fresh footprints in the dust near the tracks. They're human. Almost. Wow, that was a scary story. Let's go to the next one. My husband just came home, but he's talking to someone who isn't me. I have a rule about the baby monitor. I never look at the video feed unless I hear a sound first. Looking for no reason is how you start seeing things that aren't there. You see shapes in the static or a trick of the light on the crib rails, and your heart does a frantic little dance for nothing. But tonight, the monitor didn't make a sound, it just turned itself on. The screen glowed on my nightstand, a grainy gray window into the nursery. My daughter, Maya, was a still lump under her yellow blanket. She is 4 months old, and she sleeps like the dead. I watched the rise and fall of her chest. I waited for the audio to hiss with her soft breathing. It stayed silent. Then I saw the hand. It wasn't reaching for her. It was resting on the edge of the crib, just a few inches from her head. Long, pale fingers with knuckles that looked like polished stones. They didn't move. They just stayed there, anchored to the wood. My blood turned to slush. I didn't scream. You don't scream when you are that kind of cold. I didn't check the hallway. I didn't grab a weapon. I ran. My bare feet made a wet, slapping sound on the hardwood that felt loud enough to wake the neighborhood. I burst into her room, ready to tear whatever it was away from her. The room was empty. Maya was asleep. The air was heavy with the smell of lavender detergent and old milk. I checked behind the door. I checked the closet. Nothing. I stood over the crib, my hand hovering where the other hand had been. The wood was cold. Normal. I looked at the monitor sitting on the changing table, the one broadcasting back to my bedroom. The little green light was on. I walked back to my room, my legs shaking so hard I had to lean against the wall. I sat on the edge of my bed and looked at the parent unit again. The hand was still there. It was still on the crib rail. I looked at the screen, then looked through my open bedroom door down the hall toward the nursery. I could see her crib from here. It was empty of intruders, but on the screen, those gray fingers began to drum. A slow, rhythmic tapping. Thump, thump, thump. The audio finally kicked in. The sound wasn't coming from the monitor on my nightstand. It was coming from the nursery. It was a voice. My own voice. It was soft. A low lullaby I sing when she's teething. I looked at the monitor screen. The hand moved. It reached down and pulled the yellow blanket back. It wasn't a monster. A woman leaned into the frame. She had my hair. She had my face. She picked up Maya and cradled her, whispering into her ear. I stood up to run back there, but I stopped. I looked at my own hands. They were trembling. I looked at the monitor one more time. The woman with my face looked directly into the camera. She didn't smile. She just put a finger to her lips, telling me to be quiet. Then I heard the front door open downstairs. "Honey, I'm home," my husband called out. "Sorry I'm late. Did the baby stay down for you?" I tried to answer, but my throat was a desert. I heard his heavy footsteps on the stairs. He walked past my bedroom door without looking in. He didn't even glance at me sitting there on the bed. He walked straight into the nursery. "Hey, sweetie," he whispered. I heard the sound of him kissing someone's cheek. "You look exhausted. Put her down and go get some sleep. I've got her." I watched the monitor. I watched him take the baby from the woman who looked like me. I watched them share a tired, loving smile. Then he turned the monitor off. The screen went black. I am still sitting in the dark. I can hear them laughing softly down the hall. That creeped me out. Next story. But before we move on, like, comment, and subscribe. My ex tried to read my cards. She stopped when they finished without her. I don't believe in divination. That's the only reason I can still talk about this without my hands shaking. The woman I was dating back then, Iris, was deep into tarot, star charts, sigils, all of it. She never pushed it on me. Said belief worked better when it wasn't forced. One night, half out of boredom, half to humor her, I agreed to let her read my cards. She dimmed the lights, lit 2 candles, set the deck on the table between us, and told me, very casually, that once she started, I couldn't touch anything. Not the cards. Not the table. Not her. I joked that it sounded like a summoning circle. She didn't laugh. I handed the deck back to her. A few cards slipped from my fingers and landed face up on the table. I bent to pick them up. Her hand snapped out and clamped around my wrist. "No," she said. Not loud. Not scared. Absolute. Like I'd reached for something sharp without knowing it. She leaned forward and stared at the fallen cards. Her brow creased, then smoothed, then tightened again, like she was reading the same sentence over and over, each time realizing it meant something worse. "That's wrong," she said. What's wrong? I asked. She didn't look at me. She looked past me. The way you look when someone steps into your peripheral vision, where no one should be standing. I asked what the card meant. Her throat bobbed when she swallowed. It's not describing you, she said. It's describing something attached to you. I laughed, because that's what you do when the alternative is letting the room feel smaller. She didn't react. It says there's a presence, she continued quietly. A watcher, and it exists because of a bargain. I told her to stop messing with me. She took a breath, steadying herself, and asked, have you ever come close to dying? The question landed wrong too. Precise, too deliberate. My mouth went dry. I told her yes. Years ago, a crash on a back road. I shouldn't have survived it. Her hands started shaking. Were you raised by your parents? She asked. Biologically, I mean. I asked her how she could possibly know to ask that. She didn't answer. One of the cards slid across the table. Just a few inches. Slow. Intentional. Then another card followed, rotating slightly, aligning itself. I stood up. Okay, nope. What are you doing? She had pulled her hands into her lap. They were clenched so tightly her knuckles had gone white. I'm not touching them, she whispered. The cards continued to move, rearranging themselves into a spread I didn't recognize. The candle flames bent toward them, flickering like they were breathing. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm not supposed to be seeing this, she said. This is private. This is sealed. I asked her what she meant. She reached for the deck and froze. Her gaze lifted to the empty space just behind my shoulder. Her entire posture changed. Shoulders slumped, voice softened. I'm sorry, she said quietly. Not to me. I didn't know he was aware yet. I wouldn't have looked if I'd known. She swallowed hard. I won't do it again. A pressure settled over the room, like the air had thickened. Like something large had leaned closer. I finally turned around. The living room was empty. The hallway was empty. The front door was locked. Then the lights went out, not flickered, not dimmed. Gone. In the dark, Iris whispered one last thing so quietly I almost missed it. It says you're not alone, she said. And you never were. We broke up not long after. She won't answer my calls anymore. But sometimes, when I'm alone at night, I swear I feel something standing just behind me close enough that if I turned too fast, I'd brush against it. And I don't. Because whatever made that deal, I don't think it likes being seen. That was creepy. Let's go to the next. I think something came home wearing my husband. I don't believe in monsters. I believe in patterns, habits. The 1,000 tiny details you only notice after loving someone for half your life. That's why I know this isn't my husband. Evan and I have been together since we were kids long enough that we don't need words most days. We communicate through routine, through silence, through knowing exactly how much space the other needs without asking. Evan is quiet by design. Not shy, controlled. He learned early that silence keeps you safe. His father used to tell him that the smartest person in the room is the one who listens. Evan took it to heart. He walks softly. He closes doors gently. He never startles me. Our days follow a rhythm so steady it feels permanent. He leaves for work before sunrise. I tidy the house, run errands, walk our dog Moth around the small park down the street. By late afternoon, I'm cooking dinner. Evan usually gets home just before 4. He always pauses in the doorway, sets down his bag, kisses my cheek. No words. Never words. That's how I knew something was wrong. I was seasoning a pot on the stove when I heard the front door open slam, followed by footsteps that were too heavy, too fast. Not Evan's careful tread, but something clumsy, like a child wearing shoes 2 sizes too big. I leaned out of the kitchen just in time to see him halfway up the stairs. He was moving oddly, like his joints didn't bend the way they should. His back was stiff, his steps uneven, as if walking itself required concentration. Then he turned his head toward me. "Hello," he said brightly. "How was your day?" My heart stuttered. Evan doesn't greet me like that. He hates small talk. He hates unnecessary words. I forced a smile. Fine. He stood there on the stairs, still wearing his coat, his work bag dangling loosely from one hand. His mouth stretched into a grin that lingered too long, pulling tight at the corners like it was being practiced. I turned back to the stove, hoping he'd pick up on my discomfort like he always does. He didn't. Go change, I said carefully. You don't want to eat in your work clothes. Yes, he replied immediately. That would be correct. Correct? The word landed wrong. His voice was too precise, like someone repeating a sentence they'd memorized phonetically. And then I noticed it. I'd called him love. Evan hates that word. He told me early on, voice flat, eyes distant, that his mother used it when she was angry. When the house was loud and unpredictable and no one was safe. I never used it again, not once. He didn't react. Didn't flinch. Didn't correct me. He just smiled wider. That's when the sweat started. At dinner, I tested him again. I was thinking, I said lightly, we could visit your parents soon. He paused, fork hovering above his plate. Yes, he said after a moment. That would be appropriate. Appropriate. His parents have been dead for years. I nodded, my pulse pounding in my ears. Next weekend? That sounds ideal. His eyes never left my face. Not lovingly, not curiously. Evaluating. After dinner, I told him to shower. The second the bathroom door closed, I went to his desk. I didn't even know what I was looking for, just proof that I wasn't losing my mind. I found a folded page hidden beneath a stack of documents. Evan's handwriting, shaky, rushed. If I don't come back right, don't open the door. The thing in the woods learns fast. It listens longer than it should. If it says your name the way I do, that doesn't mean it's me. I didn't hear the shower turn off. I heard scraping. Something heavy dragging across tile. A wet sound, like breath being pulled through a throat that didn't understand how lungs worked. I locked myself in the bedroom. It didn't knock. It stood outside the door and listened. Then it started trying voices. Mine. Evan's. A child crying. A woman laughing. Every few minutes it would pause, adjust, try again, each voice closer, more convincing than the last. Please, it said eventually, in Evan's voice. Perfect now. Warm, familiar. You're scaring me. I don't know how long I've been in here. My phone is almost dead. The house has gone completely quiet, too quiet. I can still hear it breathing on the other side of the door. Waiting, learning. And I know one thing for certain. If I let it in, it won't leave alone. Very scary. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button.